Today I decided to look at another forgotten gem of the 2020 era when the pandemic basically shut down the movie experience for everyone and we were all forced to watch everything on streaming. This one though luckily comes from a director who has directed video game movies in the past, and if you're wondering if it's one of the good video game movies, it's not. This one comes from Paul W.S. Anderson, most famous for putting his wife in all of his movies, and also the Resident Evil franchise, which varies in quality, mostly leaning towards insanity and lots of slow motion kills. Now, I remember seeing a trailer for this movie way back in the day, and decided that instead of refreshing my memory on what this movie was about, I would go in blind. I knew ahead of time that this movie was probably gonna be pretty bad. I even named my document Monster Hunter, Oh Boy, and Oh Boy. So pull out your oversized weapons and get ready to take on the 2020 gem that is Monster Hunter. I've been thinking about it for a while, and I'm still not entirely sure what the plot of this movie was or what really happened in it. It opens with a pirate ship sailing across the sand, and after it's attacked by a monster, we flash to a NATO joint operation to locate a missing unit. Then we meet our little ragtag group of wisecracking soldiers, and they're transported to a place called the New World, where pirate ships sail on the sand. I seriously can't get over how this never happens again, and it is never brought up. Now, I could have sworn this movie was about army people fighting monsters, and I knew that NeYo was going to be there as well. And when I went back and watched the trailer after finishing this movie, that is pretty much how they sold it. But almost immediately the team is attacked by a giant sand monster and it starts killing them one by one. But this is not before Mila Jovovich's character gets a death fake out in the funniest way possible. After she's done giving a big speech to her remaining 3 soldiers, she's snatched up by a giant spider monster and left for dead. What makes it so funny is that as soon as she starts talking, you just kinda know that's what's about to happen to her. The movie doesn't do a very good job of covering up how obvious it's about to be. I guess Monster Hunter didn't want it to be about army people fighting monsters because within the first 30 minutes, all of them are dead. Small trigger warning for the next scene, it's pretty gross. But this is where the movie takes a brief turn into a very gross sequence. The remaining soldiers are killed by the giant spider-like monsters, and they put them in these gross, like human cocoon things. But the super gross part is when NeYo's character all of a sudden explodes with a bunch of tiny spider things that just start eating him alive. Not only was this out of left field for the tone of the movie, but it also has some crazy body horror I was not expecting at all. And unfortunately, after this super gross scene, the movie hits the brakes pretty hard in terms of moving the plot forward. It turns into a very slow-paced, bland, less action-filled, more Mila Jovovich talking to Tony Jaa in a cave. That is also a huge bummer with this movie. Tony Jaa is an awesome actor, but for some reason they decided he can only speak an alien language, so not only can he not understand the people in the scenes he's with, but they also can't understand him, which makes for some really fun dialogue scenes, that's for sure. The thing that bothers me the most about this movie though is how any of the characters react to seeing these giant monsters for the first time. As someone who was in the military, if you can believe it or not, and I've actually shot a .50 caliber machine gun, I can tell you right now, if I saw a giant monster with wings that was barreling through the sand at me, I probably wouldn't be wasting my ammunition if the first 10 rounds just bounced off of him. Like, there's also a scene where they're shooting at it with a .50 caliber machine gun, a minigun, and then someone is just leaning out of the car shooting at it with a handgun.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I didn't do fucking shit. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about any of this.
The other issue this movie has in its 1 hour and 44-minute long runtime is that we spend the first hour with just the weird spider bugs and the sand monster. With a title like Monster Hunter, I would have expected to at least see more than 2 of the same monsters for the first half of the movie, but I guess the budget just didn't allow for that. Which leads us into the action scenes of this movie. It honestly doesn't disappoint, and by that I mean the CGI budget must have run out before the movie even started, because this shit is laughably bad. Not only did they have a $60 million budget for this movie, but a majority of it was shot in the deserts of Africa. But they can't make a single monster look like anything other than an episode of The Flash from the CW.
What the hell? Oh my God,
No way!
All the monster fight scenes reach the level of horrible effects, bad dialogue, and really stupid poses. Which, for whatever reason, in a movie like this, it just kind of fits, because you're not really expecting much from a movie like this in the first place. Now, there are two lines in this movie that, whether they were meant to be funny or not, actually got a chuckle out of me. When the soldiers first arrive to this new world, they come across a giant skeleton, and one of them says this.
It has to be a dinosaur, right?
That is the stupidest thing anyone could ever say when looking at a skeleton that large. Like, have you never seen a dinosaur before? Do you know how big dinosaurs were? It's pretty obvious this isn't a dinosaur, right? Am I crazy in thinking that? The other is when Tony Jaa and Mila Jovovich are about to go take out the sand monster, and they have this wonderful interaction.
Let's do this. Never mind. Let's go.
The fact that Tony Jaa doesn't understand anything that's coming out of her mouth just kind of cracks me up in this scene. Now, the movie decides that it's going to have a plot in about the last 30 minutes, and that's when we're introduced to Ron Perlman wearing just the best wig on the market. So Mila teams up with Ronnie Boy and his merry men of cannon fodder to go to the tower in the storm so she can teleport back home. And I gotta be honest, in this final fight scene, for the first half of it, I was pretty hooked. It takes place on this magma-filled mountainside with this cool storm in the background, and they're fighting this giant fire-breathing dragon, and honestly, the CGI in this isn't as terrible as the rest of the movie. Unfortunately, it doesn't last, because about 1 minute into the fight, Mila falls off the side of the mountain and teleports back to our world. This must be around the time when the special effects budget really ran out, because the next 3 to 5 minutes is just the dragon monster destroying really bad CGI Humvees and tanks. But wait, because this is where the movie turns up the so bad it's kinda good dial. Tony Jaa and Ron Perlman appear to help finish the big baddie off, and Mila Jovovich throws a flare in the dragon's mouth and it blows up from the inside. The tried and true tested way of disposing of a fire-breathing monster, just like in the movie Reign of Fire, another really bad movie that also has a dragon in it. What's even crazier is in the distance, the portal opens up and another giant monster comes flying out. And just when you think the movie is about to keep this momentum going and the newly found trio are about to finally fight together and another bad CGI epic fight is going to happen, credits, baby. This movie really thought it was setting up something else, because on top of that, there is an after-credits scene of a cat warrior charging a beast back in the other world. Now, to be fair, this cat does have a scene earlier in the movie where it's cooking food on the ship, a ship that, I mind you, is only docked, not sailing through the sand, which I think is another wasted opportunity. But it's just absolutely hilarious that this movie really thought it had a chance at a sequel. I've been trying to figure out if Monster Hunter is so good it's bad, or just plain garbage, and I honestly still have no idea. I can't say I would ever want to watch this again, and I don't think I could recommend this movie to just anyone. But if you can get through the bland middle part and don't mind the bad CGI, I think you could find a way to enjoy this movie. But I think overall for me, it's just too boring and bland for me to call it anything other than just plain garbage. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out my video on The Meg, one of the best so bad it's good movies out there. Don't forget to subscribe and comment down below any videos you'd like to see me cover in the future.